the stopping of a Russian tank right in front of Ukrainian defenses, the loss of over 20 armored machines moving toward Chasivar, or an armored troop carrier striking a mine while rolling across a charted town. Russian troops have endured alike in such attacks time after time. Let's take a deeper glance at the details of these missions. A huge convoy is heading toward the city of Chasiv Yar. This Russian convoy, formed of 6 trucks, is already rolling ahead. Though many targets have been wrecked along the way, the Russians push onward. Ukrainian fighters stand fully alert. One of the armored troop carriers strikes a mine. The machine veers out, spins to the roadside, and opens the path for the others. Seconds later, javelin rockets are unleashed. A perfect strike. The next APC as well rolls on a mine and bursts. The column divides in 2. One unit starts unloading soldiers into the factory sector. As the push turns ever more dangerous, Ukrainian drones join the clash. The opening target is hit with precision. Turmoil breaks out. A withdrawing tank rumbles onto a mine. Another troop carrier is fixed upon by a drone and shattered with a clean blow. A follow-up vehicle moving to advance is likewise struck by a UAV and erupts in fire. Still, the mission is nowhere near done. The broken Russian squads strive to release more troops, yet Ukrainian drones keep a sharp watch. One more mine halts an incoming vehicle. When the haze lifts, drones start releasing explosives. Repeated strikes leave the foe defenseless. The armored carrier is left unusable. Even as another APC moves to advance, the Ukrainian drone shadowing it makes survival hopeless. Blasts tear its turret away and fling it into the sky. One carrier succeeds in landing troops by a structure, but it proves to be a trap. As they flee outside, an RPG destroys the mark. A few soldiers gear up for the next strike. First, drones pound the structure, followed by RPG blasts. From afar, a precise strike topples the building, leaving no chance for any inside. Sensing the threat, Russian armored vehicles try to retreat. The first strikes a mine. Ukrainian artillery aims to halt their retreat, but fails to do so. Still, a javelin fired by an AFU soldier hits its target. Another precise strike follows. The mission collapses entirely. Shortly after, the Russians launch another push on the city. Recon planes spot 2 APCs and 17 infantry readying for the strike. The troops divide into 3 units and advance along separate routes. Ukrainian artillery unleashes fire. Chaos spreads through the enemy ranks. Soldiers flee toward the bunkers, while a single APC tries to pull back. Artillery fire grows stronger as standard shells and cluster bombs fall from above. One unit is seen by an APC, positions are reported, and shortly after, a huge explosion hurls fragments in all directions. More hits come next, sealing the mission's fate. The Russian forces fail to hold any position. A nearby Ukrainian drone spots the movement of Russian troops. Soldiers moving along the pipelines assume this zone is a safe refuge, but within moments, Ukrainian UAVs emerge in the sky. The first drone moves toward the pipeline. Without extra maneuvers, it glides forward slow and steady, reaching its target zone. The operator spots a defensive post ahead. The target is neutralized, and the mission is successfully completed. Right after, a second drone lifts off. As it dives closer to Russian bunkers, an obstacle shows up in its path. The strike is executed. The path is cleared. The third drone skirts the defensive posts, slips within, and delivers the finishing blow. Troops leave their armored vehicles as artillery keeps striking the stalled targets. The offensive falls apart, demonstrating the skill and precision of Ukrainian pilots. The enemy stays under heavy threat. To block retreat, Ukrainian drones strike at Russian vehicles. Each UAV finishes its mission with a single precise strike. Destroyed vehicles burst into flames, reduced to smoking wreckage. In the Propsk area, Ukrainian artillery fires on Russian tanks. Shells strike near the convoy, yet the armored column continues moving forward. The first precise hit comes from a UA, forcing a tank into a nearby shell pit. Intense artillery fire brings the rest of the convoy to a halt. Troops leave their armored vehicles as artillery keeps striking the stalled targets. The offensive falls apart. With a single strike, the tank erupts in flames and is swiftly reduced to burnt-out scrap. Two armored troop carriers attempt to advance toward the city, but veer into a nearby field. Ukrainian artillery tries to intercept. One carrier speeds ahead at full force, making it hard to target. Yet a Ukrainian UAV intervenes. With a precise strike, the vehicle is halted. Infantry scatter as the drone releases its explosives. Russian forces attempt to shoot down the UAVs, but they fail. The second armored personnel carrier runs over a mine. The breakthrough attempt ends in failure. A similar scene unfolds in the Kansk region. Russian troops prepare for an assault, sending armored carriers across a field in an unusual maneuver, but a mine blocks their path. The vehicle stops in the middle of the field. This is not the end. AFU forces strike the area with cluster bombs. Another armored carrier rushing to assist is destroyed by a direct drone hit. Realizing the threat, Russian troops attempt to retreat, but a second drone pursues them and strikes. Moments later, a third drone delivers the decisive blow. The vehicle is permanently disabled. Another assault fails. Now come the tank scenes. A tank trying to advance halts in the middle of the road. Drones take to the sky. The first strike lands. The tank takes severe damage and becomes immobile. Engine failure seems likely. The crew tries to fire its cannon at the drones, but cannot. Smoke pours out. Maneuvers are attempted, but nothing works. A call for reinforcements is made. The tank sent for support becomes the next target of a Ukrainian UAV. As infantry try to move from one vehicle to another, the drone strikes them. With a single strike, the target is destroyed. Soldiers scatter. The entire operation turns into a disaster. The following footage is especially striking. A Russian armored troop carrier moves into a wooded area. At that very spot, two armored vehicles and a tank had earlier been destroyed by mines. A Russian soldier had marked the ground to show the path was safe. The carrier follows this track. Yet just ahead lies the true surprise: a hidden mine. The explosion sends smoke rising into the sky. Panic spreads and infantry flee toward the forest. Like the others, this attempt also ends in failure. In recent months, Ukrainian forces have stepped up efforts to disrupt Russian supply lines, launching a string of devastating convoy attacks that have shaken the enemy's ability to sustain operations near the front. The Pokrovsk sector has become one of the key battlegrounds where these tactics are most apparent, showing how carefully planned strikes can immobilize entire formations. Russian troops, relying heavily on long convoys of fuel trucks, armored vehicles, and supply transports, continue pushing men and equipment into contested zones. Yet these columns, often stretched across open roads and fields, have grown more vulnerable to Ukrainian strikes. Drones, artillery, and precision-guided munitions have all played a part in dismantling these convoys before they reach their designated positions. Every destroyed truck or tank not only weakens the enemy's firepower, but also sends a stark warning. Logistical security no longer exists for Russian forces here. Pokrovsk, in particular, has become a graveyard for armored vehicles. Ukrainian forces, combining aerial reconnaissance with rapid artillery adjustments, have mastered striking moving targets before they can disperse. Tanks advancing toward the city are intercepted by drone attacks, while armored carriers trying to break through Ukrainian defenses are halted by mines or ambushed by UAVs. What is striking in this sector is not only the destruction itself, but the coordinated nature of the operations. Each Ukrainian strike fits into a larger pattern. Drones first disorient and damage. Artillery follows with heavy shelling, and additional UAVs finish off the survivors. This layered strategy ensures Russian advances collapse before they can gain momentum. Similar scenes unfold in Kupiansk and other critical regions, where Russian forces test Ukrainian defenses with mechanized pushes. Armored convoys attempt to cross open fields, only to be trapped by carefully laid mines. When vehicles are immobilized, they become easy prey for Ukrainian drones circling overhead. Even when Russian troops send reinforcements to rescue stranded units, those reinforcements are themselves targeted, creating a chain of losses. The battlefield becomes a cycle where one failed assault leads directly to the destruction the next wave. Beyond immediate tactical victories, these convoy attacks carry deeper strategic weight. Supplies cannot move without risk. Reinforcements cannot be deployed without fear of ambush. Armored units cannot maneuver freely under the constant shadow of drones overhead. This erosion of confidence is perhaps as damaging as the physical destruction of vehicles. Soldiers marching into battle, knowing their convoys may never arrive intact, are soldiers already fighting with a broken spirit. The importance of Pokrovsk lies not only in its geography, but in the psychological battlefield it represents. Russian forces have tried repeatedly to seize ground here, seeing it as a gateway to further advances. Yet every attempt meets precise Ukrainian countermeasures. Tanks set ablaze on roads, armored carriers reduced to smoldering wrecks, and convoys scattered in panic. These images symbolize the futility of continued Russian offensives. Each failure strengthens Ukrainian morale and sends a clear message. The defenders remain in control, and attackers pay a heavy price for every step forward. What emerges from these operations is a picture of modern warfare, where mobility and supply are as decisive as firepower. Ukrainian forces have realized that by cutting the arteries that feed the Russian war machine, they can weaken the body of the invasion itself. Convoy attacks are not isolated strikes, but part of a broader strategy to erode Russia's ability to sustain operations across multiple fronts. Success in Pokrovsk and other regions shows that even against overwhelming numbers, agility, precision, and strategic foresight can tilt the balance of the battlefield. As the conflict evolves, these operations will continue to shape the course of the war. Every destroyed convoy, intercepted tank column, and shattered assault adds to a greater truth. The Russian advance is being methodically dismantled, not by brute force alone, but through calculated, relentless pressure on its weakest points. In this, Ukraine has shown not only resilience that leave the enemy vulnerable at every turn,